So Michael, first of all, thanks for being here with us.
No problem.
You are the head of the cluster that takes care of debris management should a disaster come our way, or a pandemic in this case. How did the plans go as COVID was rolled out and plans were rolled out for COVID?
Yeah, well, the plans went well, if I can say that. We do have an annual plan, and an annual plan is something you do every year. So we develop that plan each year. In terms of COVID, minor changes. We have a committee of people, both government agencies and private sector.
Right.
We no longer met anymore.
Okay.
It's down to Zoom meetings, and that I think that worked well. I think a lot of people found that you became more efficient in doing that. That you didn't spend time travelling to a meeting, and people probably spoke less and got to the point. So we did actually get our plans together,
right,
in shorter order than previous years. In terms of COVID, its application, I think from my side in DEH, we've been working through that.
Okay,
We've been working through that since the beginning and all the way through the height. So we've been working to, I would say, more stringent guidelines around PPE and sanitation. We work in the waste business anyway, so sanitation's very key. But it gave us a greater focus, and for us moving into hurricane season, we're kind of transitioning those practices into that management.
Right.
So I think probably one of the things that is probably less apparent is probably staff welfare. I've got over 100 staff that deal with waste management, collections, disposal, and they all form part of the hurricane response in terms of the clean-up afterwards. Along with grateful assistance from the private sector,
right,
and such like. But we've been frontline workers. I've been amazingly grateful to my team to continually come out every day. But it's COVID's kind of been a precursor to the hurricane season, or the height of it at least. And thinking about my staff, I'm encouraging them to take leave, to take a break,
right,
to get some downtime, because we don't. The height of the season's yet to come, but we never know when we'll be called upon. So we need a bit of downtime and a bit of a rest, just to make sure we're fully charged for this season.
Right. Explain to the public exactly what debris management your committee is responsible for, what that means if a hurricane or disaster hits us. What is it that your team is responsible for? What do you make happen?
What do we do? What's it all about?
Yes.
Well, it sounds as simple as what it is. Our aim is basically to manage and clear the debris after a hurricane or similar event. And we do that in two phases. We have an initial clearance phase, which is effectively getting the roads clear, all the main accesses, so that we've got sort of freedom of movement for emergency services and to critical infrastructure. So we've got those pathways through, and that's generally in the first 72 hours, let's say.
Right.
All these things are dependent on the severity of the event, but we say the first few days would be clearing roads around all the islands, just to make sure we can get that access through. So the second phase is debris management. It's a longer term phase, but
right,
following the initial clearance, we've obviously got materials piled up at the roads, and the public will have materials that have accumulated following the event. So we have these temporary sites in every district that we use to manage those materials. So we use heavy equipment to clear the materials. Following that, we will use the heavy equipment to lift and shift the materials to each of these sites in the district. And those sites are run by DEH staff. So it's people, I would say, qualified. We're qualified to deal with waste. They can identify the different types, the different streams. So we would look to identify, sort, store, process if need be. Let's say for vegetation, we would expect to have a lot of vegetation after an event, so we would shred those materials. And for other materials, we may look to dispose of them or ship them off island as required.
Right.
So the temporary sites in the districts kind of form a holding area, a holding pattern. We expect there will be a large volume of material. We can't possibly manage all that material, let's say, for example, in the Georgetown landfill or in similar facilities on the sister islands.
Right.
So we need to be doing this in a staged manner, kind of drip feed those materials to where they need to go.
Right.
And depending on, again, the severity of the event, that will take a period of time, a longer period, probably months or even many months in the future, to handle that volume of material.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you think your team would face if a situation like that occurs?
I think once we've got the materials clear and we've got some freedom of movement to and from site, we're probably in the realms of much like the COVID, hard work, lots of hours. So having the right turnaround of staff so that we can manage these sites and we don't have burnout, because from what I've seen, we do have a dedicated body of staff who will just keep going.
Right.
So we need to look after those people so we can continually manage that service for the public. Probably from a more practical point of view, since the last major event we had on Grand was Ivan, and the islands moved on from there.
Yeah.
In our initial meetings, we've obviously got a lot of people that experienced Ivan previously, and they're kind of looking forward to where the island is now.
Yeah.
Principally around, there's more people here. There's certainly a lot more vehicles on the island, and more vehicles means there'll be a lot more derelict vehicles after the event. So there is a bit of concern on our part in terms of managing those vehicles. But what we would need to do is probably leave some of those in situ, as long as they're not blocking the highway.
Right.
Because we can't fill up our temporary sites with vehicles in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it's just handling that flow of what we anticipate to be a greater volume of material than we would have had in the past. But
So we're in hurricane season of 2020. We've been through an earthquake. We've been through we're going through COVID, and it's supposed to be an above normal hurricane season. How prepared do you feel your team is for that? Should something come our way?
Yeah, I'd like to say we're well prepared. And we are. We have a plan, but probably like all great plans, until something happens, you need to adapt and adjust.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I shouldn't really say a positive aspect to COVID, or probably how well the Cayman Islands government and civil service reacted to it is that we're kind of always on that footing. We always have plans in place every year to look at natural disasters coming our way and prepare for it. I think from what I can see is that just in my department alone, these events have kind of put us in that mindset, and have kind of prepared us somewhat mentally for what can happen. It's a little bit out of the blue, COVID, but we've reacted to it, and I don't think, certainly from a DH perspective, we've not been found wanting.
How can the public, the listening public, and the viewing public help your committee, your department, in preparing for a hurricane if it comes our way, or even in the aftermath? What are some of the things that they can do to make the process easier for your team?
Well, I think probably following the government's advice, recommendations. I mean, and I know there are public service announcements circulating right now. And will continue to do so throughout the season. Follow that advice is the first one. I mentioned the temporary sites that we've got, and these are generally on government land. Dotted around each district.
Yep.
We will have follow-up announcements to indicate where those sites are and what materials should go where, because not all we can't accept everything at every site, just because of the conditions of the ground and what have you. So again, listen for those announcements in the aftermath of an event. If you need to dispose of certain materials, we'd ask you to please take it to the right place. We will have people there that will advise, but we don't want people to make abortive journeys. And we will provide that advice in advance of an event. We're not going to cycle the information now, because nothing's happening. We don't.
Right.
I would say this: we don't necessarily want to identify an area as being a dump site.
Sure.
And we don't want to promote that activity unless that site is managed, and it would only be managed in the aftermath of an event. So, listen, follow advice of our staff when you get to site. They're there. They'll be doing a difficult job in difficult circumstances. So, please be patient with them. They'll help as best they can. But if there are issues, please take the advice in the spirit that's intended.